Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Our guest today, Jessica Kwong. Jessica, thank you so much for being here and coming on. I really appreciate it. Tell us, first of all, where you're calling in from and what you do for a living with Jack and Friends.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Matt. Really excited to be on this episode of the podcast. I'm Jessica Kwong, the founder of Jack and Friends, currently based in Brooklyn, New York. Jack and Friends is a company that's centered around crafting food inclusive of different lifestyles, diets, and allergy restrictions without sacrificing nutrition or quality. So our first product line is a jackfruit jerky that is not only vegan and top 9 allergen free, but also packed with 15 grams of protein and 9 grams of fiber per bag and no added sugars.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. And can you tell me a little bit more about your background? I mean, what kind of got you wanting to get into this space with, creating foods for different dietary restrictions and things? And what was kind of the big thing, maybe a problem you saw out there in the market that you were looking to solve or maybe do a little bit differently in creating this brand?
Yeah, I've always been in the food industry ever since a young age. Started out purely as a, interest in more the culinary side. So kind of started out a little bit in pastry throughout high school, realized I wanted to kind of major in something a little bit more academic and technical. So I actually went to Cornell University and got a bachelor's in food science. So still within food, but kind of all the lovely nerdy topics that not many people touch. While I was a student there, was heavily involved in product development competitions as well as creating different new products for actual food companies, ranging from small startups all the way to the multi-billion-dollar giants like Hain Celestial and Mondelez International. So that's where I kind of really cultivated my R&D skill set and my interest in like developing new and novel products. This concept for a jackfruit jerky started as a result of one of these competitions, and I felt really passionate about not only that specific product format, but also how I could use it to launch a brand that I was passionate about. So really wanted a brand that centered around inclusivity, especially around like the dietary restrictions. I have a lot of friends and family that have pretty severe allergies. And, I've always seen the struggle, whether it's going out to eat or just like finding products in a grocery store, that fit those dietary restrictions, but aren't like empty calories. So I wanted to create something that, was a very simple choice for people that need to be very conscious of what they put into their bodies, but also make sure they're not compromising.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that story. And where did you kind of start? What was your general go-to-market strategy when you started the brand initially? Were you looking to do mostly online selling? Were you looking to get into retail quickly at the start? And also, can you tell me also when the original launch was? I guess when was like your first sale or when you actually went to market? And what was your general strategy there for the avenues you were taking to sell it?
Yeah, great questions. So we soft launched just one SKU exclusively on our own website in March of 2019. That was our Jack and Tom, or our tomato and poblano pepper flavor. And the go-to-market strategy was very scrappy, very e-commerce driven. At that time, it kind of D2C was, the big thing. And with our product being lightweight and shelf stable, it just made sense to kind of start out with that avenue, especially as a bootstrapped brand. So, for the first few years, almost purely D2C in terms of business. In terms of the timeline of like how Jack and Friends has progressed, we, soft launched that one SKU and then did kind of a more full launch with the 3 SKU set in June of 2020, which was an interesting pivot because it was right in the heart of the pandemic. And then, throughout all those years, developed a lot of learnings, kind of dipped our toes in independent stores for retail and figured out where exactly we wanted to navigate. So now with Jack and Friends, we're trying to become a lot more retail focused outside of, e-commerce and D2C, having a lot of new launches this year in 2024. And to kind of support that, we went through a whole brand refresh process with like new logo, new packaging, really new vibrant branding that launched at Expo East, which is a major trade show this past September.
Very cool. And how do you kind of take to, and obviously making things that are like specific dietary restrictions or have specific ingredients to those points. How did you grapple with, finding manufacturers who are, including all of these types of dietary restrictions in their own practices? Was it a kind of added challenge for you, or is that something that's maybe a little bit easier to come by nowadays as like, these allergies are becoming more prevalent and people are learning more about them, but also, different dietary lifestyles are also becoming, I think, a little bit more trendy and prevalent as well?
Yeah, a really great question. And honestly, so poignant because manufacturing has always been our biggest bottleneck. Not only because of, what you just mentioned, but also being a very innovative product, it comes with innovative processing. Even though I designed it to be, scaled up without custom production lines, it is, quite different from like a traditional meat jerky in processing, or, a baked good, or, like a kale chip or something like that. So finding a manufacturer that not only had the capacity to satisfy, what we were projecting for volume, but also had the capabilities to actually, create and process our product with the quality standards that we wanted was quite difficult. So that was, a very interesting process. We were self-manufacturing, honestly, up until like end of 2022, early 2023. And thankfully, we have a co-manufacturer right now that is producing all of our product. We were able to kind of, retrofit our processes into their existing production lines, and like, especially from the allergy and inclusivity standpoint, made sure that they have very strict allergen control programs, have like their quality and safety on a tight lock, which is part of my background. So I'm able to kind of audit that as well. And, just make sure that they're a really good fit culture and also processing capability wise.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And as far as the products go, I know you mentioned that you're kind of working in a number of different allergen categories that you're looking to cater to. Is your mission to kind of do like all of the products to be free from all these allergens, so that everything can be applicable to anybody no matter what allergy they have? Or are you doing kind of certain products that are soy free, certain products that are vegan, certain products that are maybe dairy free and things like that? What's the kind of general like product line breakdown with those types of things?
Yeah, the goal is to keep the product lines all top 9 allergen free, instead of
Got it.
having like specific, I guess, allergens like per product line. We want to make it as inclusive as possible. Obviously we can't catch every allergy. There's tons of very niche and specific allergies out there, but we figured the largest population we can be inclusive of, the better. So the goal is to keep it all, made from jackfruit as a star ingredient, and then also top 9 allergen free. And then obviously in the future, expanding that out to different product categories and different product lines outside of just jerky.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I guess just speaking again to just kind of your D2C sales, what did you kind of find was like your ideal kind of customer demographic or psychographic? Obviously, people who have allergies is like kind of the ideal customer, the target market for you. Did anything surprise you along the way, especially selling direct to consumer, where you have kind of all the data and things that you can gather from who's actually buying and like continuously purchasing these things? Did anything surprise you about like specific customer profiles, or maybe were more popular than you were expecting?
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that surprised me in the beginning was kind of our split between the male and female demographic. We had a lot more male customers than we initially thought, and it almost was like an even split, or like very slightly leaning towards women. So that was very surprising, just because in general, like the natural better for you category tends to be a little bit more women leading. So that was one area. Another area is like what we define as our current target demographic is the flexitarian millennial urbanite. Long mouthful, but basically it's
Fair enough,
people
though. Yeah.
that are, yeah, like flexitarians. So like they're familiar with, animal-based products, but they're looking to lean more towards a plant-based diet and figure out specific instances where they can switch out products, for a plant-based option, and overall just like be very health conscious. At the same time, they're leading super busy lifestyles, usually concentrated in like urban areas. So, we've seen that our demographic is a little bit broader than we imagined, which is great for us. And that like these people, even if they're not siloed into like a specific category, like purely vegan, purely like allergic to like the top 9 allergens, there's a lot of areas where like those broad lifestyle habits can be seen across like different consumers, and they're still loving our products.
I love that. And two interesting things you kind of mentioned there, which is, I think in CPG sales, especially, things seem to tend to skew more towards women buyers, as like a lot of women, especially maybe older millennials who have, families and multiple people in their homes, are usually the ones making those purchases on behalf of all the other people that are in their home. So I find a lot of things like skew towards women just slightly in that regard. So to have it even be at parity with men and women, or to have men be, most frequent buyers, I think says a lot about maybe like the appeal of it. Because I'll say usually things that are like not like really in like a health and wellness category that does typically skew more towards women consumers, I would say usually are like at 60-40 men versus women, just because of that reason alone, it seems. So that's really fascinating. And I suppose I guess from the retail standpoint as well, what kind of if you're able to mention, is there any stores that might recognize that you're currently operating in, or anything that's going to be upcoming for you guys?
Yeah, we're super exciting year for us. We just launched in about like a little over 25 independent stores in New York City.
Awesome.
We will be launching in Fairway, Citarella, and Gourmet Garage in the next few weeks, also based in the Metro New York area. Those are kind of like regional chains here. We just got approved for Whole Foods Northeast as well, which is super exciting. So, assuming fingers crossed that all the paperwork and, the rest of the steps after the approval go well, we'll be on shelves in the Northeast region of Whole Foods in October. So, I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch, but like we're super excited about that partnership because it has been going very well. And yeah, just trying to get the jerky out to more people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I'm in New York as well, and I'm not going to try to repeat your customer profile definition, but I will say like you're talking to me. That's exactly like who I am, like a flexitarian looking for plant-based options to kind of subsidize certain things in my diet, and live in New York City, and I'm a zillennial, as you would call it. I'm like actually right in the middle of those two, so it's really funny. I feel targeted. No, I'm just kidding.
Amazing. I mean, when we're in a store near you, you'll have to pick some up.
No, I do. I really want to try it. I think myself and my partner I think would really love something like this too. She's the one who kind of got me into the being a flexitarian or a fleegan. I've heard people say, which I like. I think that's what's funnier. So, but no, that's amazing. And I'll just say one question I always love to ask everybody that comes on the podcast, which is basically if you can go back to 2019 and when you were still pre-revenue before launch, like knowing everything you know now and everything you've learned along the way, if you could give yourself any one piece of advice, what do you think that piece of advice would be?
Oh, that's such a great question. Honestly, because now knowing that we're going to go through a pandemic and kind of our whole manufacturing journey, I probably would have told myself to start that search process sooner. Just because with the timing of everything, being a bootstrap brand, I wanted to self-manufacture first because I can control the quality, I can control the small volumes and just like have a very quick inventory turnover. So I wouldn't have to, put so much cash into inventory, as a small brand that's basically looking to test market. However, because we launched in March of 2019. And then once we got going, by the time we first started really looking for a manufacturing partner, it was like right before the pandemic. And that whole process just slowed everything down because, you couldn't meet in person, you couldn't see facilities, like doing trials was near impossible. So I think if I had started that whole process sooner and maybe even launched with a co-packer, it would have like sped up our timeline so much more. And I wouldn't have to basically juggle being an already launched brand that consumers want existing product while also trying to figure out the manufacturing piece at the same time and like splitting my mental bandwidth there. So like just making that whole process more efficient, I think would have been a lot nicer.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fair enough. And it's funny, I usually preface that question of like, besides seeing COVID coming, like what would you do different? But no, it's a fair point, right? It's a fair point. And I don't think it's as traditional as a pain point as I hear with people going through COVID. I think most of what I hear is like people were already in like a bunch of retail locations that during COVID they just got pulled, right? So they had to transition either to online or basically just wait it out before they could get back, or they had to start selling only through like these retailers' websites if they were in the Targets or Walmarts or Whole Foods out there. They were only available on their online marketplaces. So, but that's an interesting kind of like developmental stage of even like gathering partners to be able to do things at scale during that time is an entirely different experience. So I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure a lot of others can resonate with that, and hearing how you navigated it could be super helpful. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, I also just want to give you a quick opportunity, Jessica, just to plug your website, your social media pages, any way anybody can stay in touch with you, maybe with a potential business partnership, or if they just want to find the product and maybe place an order. Let everybody know how to stay in touch with you all.
Yeah, for sure. You can find all of our products available online at jackandfriendsjerky.com. And we're very active on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, with the social media handle at jackandfriendsjerky. So everything is very consistent. If anyone wants to reach out to me, there is a contact form on the website as well. So feel free to, hit me up with any questions about the product or, like you said, any potential business partnerships.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, I just want to say thank you again for coming on. I appreciate your perspective and your passion for what you do. And I just want to wish you the best of luck, continued success in everything you're doing. And we look forward to staying in touch.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, everybody.